Welcome to episode 148 of Generation Red, the kettle corn of Herd at Sports podcast, where we try to be sweet, but sometimes we get salty. I'm Ken.
I'm Justin.
And we're here to preview the Huskers' upcoming road trip to Penn State for a game that is loaded with compelling storylines. First of all, Matt Rule is returning to coach against his alma mater for the first time since he was the head coach at Temple in 2015 when he beat them in Happy Valley. Secondly, he's facing his third interim head coach in the Big Ten in 2025. Then you have Emmett Johnson's Heisman campaign, Dana Holgorsen versus Jim Knowles, and the battle of the backups featuring Nebraska's TJ Lateef and Penn State's Ethan Grunkenmeyer. So stick around for what should be a fun conversation, including our keys to victory, bold predictions, and what we believe the final score will be. But before we get started, please follow us at GenRedPod on Facebook, X, and YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, ring that bell, leave a like on this video, or if you prefer your podcast in audio format, subscribe to Generation Red on Apple, Spotify, Google, or your favorite podcast app. Please leave us a rating and a review to help other fans find the audio podcast as well. Our website is genredpod.com, and our email is genredpod@gmail.com. We also have merch available, so if you are watching this video, scan the QR code in the upper right corner of the screen to go to our online store. Brought to you courtesy of Herd at Sports. Or if you're listening to this podcast, please go to genredpod.com and click on the link in the gray bar at the top of the home page. As always, we value your opinions, so sound off in the live chat as you watch us tonight, or leave a comment on this video if you're watching it on demand later. Thanks so much for joining us tonight and or downloading this podcast tomorrow, and we really hope that you enjoy the show. There you go. I actually used the teleprompter for the very first time. How smooth was that, dude? I didn't forget anything for once.
Beautiful. That was beautiful.
However, what we did forget is two of the guys. Coach can't make it tonight, and Scott's on an emergency call at work, so he's unable to join us at this particular time. I don't know if he's going to get done in time to join us, but Justin and I are going to do our best to have some fun.
That's right.
We're going to, as the other Dave says, 'tis Tuesday equals Gen Red. That's right, the other Dave. Thanks for coming in, Dave. We appreciate it. Decorating for the holidays. We host a Christmas party every year. Justin, you're local. You're invited if you want to share. That's awesome, dude. Thanks, Dave.
I'll try to
your
find
number or email is what he's saying. So I wouldn't put that out there, but
yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, I wouldn't post that on the screen.
I don't care. My email is justinpaul3201@gmail.com. So, and if people spam email me, it's okay. It's I got like 3 other ones. So,
so without Scott and Coach, we can be plenty long-winded on our own, but here's hoping it doesn't take us too awful long to get through this. But I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
What do you think the biggest storyline is going into this game? Rule's return to Penn State, his facing a third interim Big Ten head coach in 2025, Emmett Johnson, Dana versus Jim, or the battle of the backups? Or is there another storyline you can think of that you think is intriguing going into Saturday?
I think naturally, like, the football aspect of it is taking priority. I think it would be a bigger storyline, Rule returning to Penn State, if kind of the he didn't sign the extension with Nebraska. I think the big storyline is Nebraska being an underdog going into this game. I think that's the big one. Nebraska being a 9.5, not just being under 9.5 points. It opened at 10.5, being that steep of an underdog. To me, that's a big storyline, because that's Vegas kind of not giving us any respect in that regard. So
why do you think that disrespect, if you will, is present? Is it because they don't trust a young freshman quarterback going into that environment against some arguably better defensive athletes than he faced a couple weeks ago?
They have a freshman too. I think it's a styles make fight situation where you have a team who just came off of a game where they ran the ball for 240 yards against a team that has been very bad against the run. So yeah, it's one of those things where I just feel like, they're kind of leaning into their strength being against our weakness. And of course, TJ Lateef being a true freshman has something to do with that. But at the same time, Grunkenmeyer is a young quarterback, but Grunkenmeyer has had, some reps, valuable reps against 3 weeks in a row, 3 top 10 defenses in Ohio State, Iowa, and Indiana. So like he did get some in, and then I think it's kind of one of those things where last week against Michigan State, he didn't have to do too much because they ran the ball well. But I do think Andy Kotelnicki is going to be a little bit trusting, with him if he needs to be. Of course, they're going to get behind their run game as much as possible, but I think Grunkenmeyer's kind of settling in a little bit. It gets when things get much easier than Iowa, Ohio State, and Indiana. So I don't know. I think it might be just their quarterback's a little bit more battle tested. He's going to be at home. On top of that, their strength going against our biggest weakness on the defensive side of the ball. So I think that has a lot to do with it.
Sounds good. The other Dave says he will email you, Justin. I want to talk about chess boxing. I didn't even know that's a thing that existed.
What the hell? That's crazy.
Chess champion in grade school and played hockey, so I have the fighting spirit.
That's bro. Actually, it's funny. One of my clients that I train right now at the boxing gym, he loves chess. So that's the 2 people in this world that I know that love chess. It's kind of funny.
Strange.
Both have to do with the boxing.
Strange.
Yeah.
Well, apparently Vegas still thinks Penn State is a top 10 team, according to the other Dave.
Talent-wise.
They've got it loaded.
I'm going to be honest. I didn't like them as a top 10 team with Franklin or with Drew Aller. I just last season the same thing. Penn State came out and they got a lot of respect early. Just don't think they've proven themselves, but and to be a top 10 team. But I think it's one of those things where they're a deep team. They have a lot of depth. They have a lot of talent.
The one storyline I didn't write down on here that I think you mentioned that was very important and for me would probably top my list would be, what does this run defense do against those 2 running backs on Saturday? How do they contain them? Grunkenmeyer's probably not going to pull the ball down and run very much unless he has to get the heck out of the way of somebody. So, but I don't know. I just don't have a whole lot of confidence in this run defense. And if they ran it 50 times on Michigan State, I can't imagine they're not going to run it for 40 plus against us. So that's the storyline that has me intrigued.
Yeah, Butler did talk about and Matt Rule talked about kind of how they're challenging the team this week. It's like, hey, they don't think you can stop the run. And I'm wondering if them kind of challenging this defense and challenging this team can maybe get them a little juiced up to go out there and be like, they don't respect us in this regard. Let's go prove them wrong. Now, we haven't had a chance to do that this season. One of the things I will say, and Butler mentioned this too, the tackling has gotten a lot better since Minnesota, but the tackling has to be, Katron Allen is going to make you pay if you do not wrap him up and make a tackle. It's one of those things where we're going to have to just be able to get all the hats to the ball that we can. When we make contact, we got to stand him up because Katron Allen is a guy who will run through you. They like to do a lot of gap runs with him, and then with Singleton, they like to do a little bit more of the mixture of zone gap runs and then some of the receiving stuff. But both of those guys, they can make you pay if you can't wrap them up.
For certain. So let's take a look, and just for kicks and giggles, I've got some stat comparisons between the 2 teams. We'll start with scoring for 2025. Whoops. Let's hit my fancy button here. There we go. Just comparing the scoring, they're very, very similar. 33 points per game for Nebraska, 30 points per game for Penn State. They're only giving up 21 points per game. We're only giving up 20. So it's a very even matchup when you look at how many points these teams are putting on the board. Would their scoring be a little bit higher had Drew Aller not gotten hurt? It's an intriguing question because you really can't answer it. You don't know. But I certainly think they could have scored more points per game. And Nebraska scored a bulk of the reason they're averaging 33 is because they scored a crap ton of points against Akron and HCU. So, and they've largely struggled to get much to that, 28-point margin. It seems to be a pretty common one, or 28 points seems to be the common number they seem to reach with some of these teams in the Big Ten. So, but yeah, they're not ranked. They're ranked fairly highly in the country as far as defense, 25th for Nebraska in scoring and 35th for Penn State. So it'll be a tough sledding for certain, which probably influences a lot of the scores that we all picked as far as our predictions. Passing, Nebraska gives up 135 yards per game, and PSU has been averaging 181, which is 15th in the Big Ten, 114th in the country. Nebraska is both third in the country and third in the Big Ten in passing off defense. So I wouldn't expect them to throw for much more than 120, 130 yards on Saturday. But rushing, like you said, that's the one that gets a little scary. So they average rushing for 168 or giving up 168. And, oh, good Lord, I'm still on passing. My bad. 248 a game is what Nebraska generates, and they give up 168. So maybe there's a vulnerability there where if TJ has a decent plan for him and he can be, 14 of 17 or 15 of 20 drop back passes or rolling out of the pocket, doing some of those things that gets him on the run and keeps that defense honest, I think he could have some success against that secondary. What do you think looking at those passing numbers? Hey, Scott's there. What's up, buddy?
What's good?
Yes. Hello, gentlemen.
What's up, my friend?
Oh, just dealing with a super duper emergency that wasn't even an emergency.
Don't you love when that happens?
Yeah, it's incredible. So I'm just gonna treat this like a phone call, at least for the next 25 minutes while I drive all the way across town again.
Let's go. At least you made it. Coach BA is not here again.
Yeah, poor fella. It's almost like he's got a whole coaching gig to deal with.
He's got a bad case of the Tuesdays because Tuesdays are not his day, clearly.
Oof.
Tuesdays late at night are not his day and night.
Sheesh.
So the other Dave says, hey, Scott, he's glad to see you. Howdy, nerds, as usual from Moonbot 7613. And whatever this fella says, going to beat PSU and lose to Iowa. Okay, dude, appreciate the positivity. I don't know. I think I could flip-flop both of these games because I'm not sure which way is up when it